This film will examine events in more detail. That took place in 2011 saw the little town of Chappie, Massachusetts was taken aback when in the kitchen, a dead resident was discovered. Of her flat at first, the investigators thought they would resolve the matter swiftly, yet the case of Amanda Pla, age 20, stayed unresolved for over 2 years that fateful day. The authorities chose to take a closer examination of the proof they had. The Ution was directly beneath all of this time. There, Amanda Lynn Play's Noses was born on. She was born in Chapati on December 11, 1990. Massachusetts, together with her sister Emily and Nicholas Michelle Myas, her brother, said hippie daughter was frequently jokingly informed her that she had been born too late for generations. In 2011, Amanda served customers at Friendly's in Chappie. The 27-year-old she was seeing in August, a carpenter called Seth Green Seth dialed 911 on June 26, 2011, and reported that he discovered Amanda was not responding in the apartment's kitchen, and that Amanda used to reside on the 3rd floor of Seth was in this house when he dialed 911, shedding tears when she informed the operator that was already on the floor, unconscious. Upon his arrival, numerous wounds were present. Seth stated he couldn't help with her body. He was astounded by her and wanted to send an ambulance and police when paramedics as they got there. They said Amanda passed away from stab wounds the police's abdomen, throat, and chest, sealed off the residence where the crime occurred when the initial officers, upon arrival, they discovered Seth on the porch. Was sobbing and unable to reach his detectives' thoroughly examined senses whose flat belongs to Amanda. The offender was able to get away with it, but initially left some evidence. Things investigators noticed while studying the scene of the murder was a big quantity of bloodstains in the kitchen. They were aware that attack happened there, and that the crime's weapon was probably a KN that the offender carried with them. What the cops discovered obvious Nike trainer prints, broken window glass in the floor. The space where a palm print was found remains the reason behind this vicious crime stayed a mystery. Because of the kind and quantity of Amanda's wounds, body investigators had cause to think, because it's possible she knew the assailant, stating that this crime's motivation was personal hostility. Hence the first Seth, Amanda's boyfriend, was the suspect. Green was taken to the police by them. Stationed to investigate Amanda's passing shocked her family, especially her mother. Michelle Mathis was shocked by everything. They were genuinely experiencing this. Sadly, Amanda's passing wasn't the only hardship her family experienced, but we will discuss that briefly. As I mentioned before, the police took Seth Green for raising no doubts was unexpected, given that he was the first thought that he was dating someone. Blood was on his hands, and there was the victim garments, and it was him who made the call. As it happened, 911W and Amanda begun dating fewer than 2 weeks prior. Her family was nearly aware of her death. Nothing at all about the 7-year-old older, and may hold distinct opinions about a few items, but might this have been the cause of a fight that resulted in a heinous crime? Without a doubt, the investigators began to question if Seth could have broken the law by stating that when he arrived, Amanda had already passed away. They found out about her flat. It had been 2 hours after Seth's 911 call. When Amanda called and died, this was definitely enough time to demolish the evidence and get rid of the weapon used in crime. Hence, the initial query the investigators needed to determine if the person who was in charge of Amanda's death upon Seth's arrival to the police station, he appeared to be a man with recently gone through a horrible incident. He was grieving over his beloved's passing. Investigators' desire for their girlfriend determine if his feelings were honest. Maybe he was attempting to sidestep distrust from him during the upon questioning. Seth claimed to have spent the particular day. He spent the entire day at work intended to transport Amanda to the eatery where she was employed, but was unable to due to his personal workload schedule. In Seth's opinion, he didn't understand Amanda well because they hadn't been together for a very long time, but having no motive to hurt her, he adored her. Seth was employed by her at the investigator's construction site, began inquiring about labor tools from him, implying that he may have made use of one of them to carry out the offense. Seth training employed a work-related tool belt that contained a large number of construction tools, including a knife. Yet he asserted he always drops it off at work following his shift, and Seth's day was no different. Completed his duties and changed into new clothes, he went to Amanda and left his tools behind. Knew completely why he was the primary. Even still, he remained steadfast in his assertion that he did not participate in the demise of at the end. The cops and his girlfriend verified Seth's pretenses. The man even aced his polygraph examination. When they got there, they were wearing construction boots, because it was clear that they didn't match the reproductions of the Nike trainers' designs, Seth's shoe size, and the crime scene was noticeably bigger than the palm print. Didn't belong to Seth on the glass. Considering all of this, the police removed him off the roster of believes Amanda was defending her life, whoever the offender happened to be there. Their body must have been scratched. In the initial weeks following the offense, everywhere there were traces of the beneath Amanda's nails, the criminal's skin. This was proof that the authorities had high expectations. However, regrettably, when the DNA sample was tested, there was no if any of their databases include matches. Though the crime's motivation was still confusing since Amanda had items in her space that would be interesting for the even though there was a robbery. They stayed unaffected because the police discovered no indications of a break-in. They had two varying accounts of how the offender entered first. Amanda was aware of the offender and allowed them to enter her own. The second is that it's possible she forgot to shut the door while conducting. Amanda's acquaintances and co-workers of the investigators discovered that the offense may have been the outcome of a previous love triangle. When Amanda and Seth began dating, she was in a connection with a different male breakup with whoever was not well received smoothly. According to those who are acquainted in the given circumstance, Amanda was the one who, after a while, wished to split up. She began seeing Seth, and the rumored ex-boyfriend, wasn't fond of that incredibly unrequited love, frequently pushes individuals to reckless acts that result in permanent effects. Thus, the investigators began examining the information was obtained. However, ultimately, this version produced no results, for Amanda's former partner gave his DNA and fingerprints that were not identical to those discovered on Amanda's fingernails and under the shattered glass in her room's window. Moreover, he had a trustworthy alibi. The police were pursuing more leads, but none of them assisted in drawing nearer to figuring out Amanda's passing, so the inquiry came to a standstill. Amanda's relatives were steadfast they posted flyers in their quest for justice and supported auto events in the hopes that someone would supply crucial data. Michelle said that her kid wasn't flawless, but she was baffled as to why. Why did no one stop the person who killed her? Who else approached the cops to explain what, sadly, they were aware of Amanda's family? Have to endure yet another trying moment. They discovered that multiple police officers took pictures of Amanda's corpse on their phones, which they subsequently shared these pictures of you with other people, such as people who are not police officers captured these images while awaiting the homicide by Massachusetts State Police detectives are scheduled to visit the school. Street crime scene as reported by one of the police's internal affairs reports. The individuals that shot the pictures were Senior Officer Sergeant Keith Lame, designated to keep an eye on and safeguard the 73 school street's integrity. The flat where Amanda was stabbed on August 26, 2011, he sent an email from his smartphone to a moment later police officer who handed it over to a police from a patrolman van, shared it with people. Such as youth coaches' records from football games reveal, Lame took a crappy picture on his phone at the time, sent it on to Sergeant Jeffrey Godair. The latter then sent the picture by email to Officer Levesque. Patrolman Chad Levesque, for reasons he alone knows, he experienced it essential to demonstrate to other football coaches this disturbing image of a murder. Amanda, the victim, was resting in her kitchen floor. As he was doing so, Chad was audibly declare that this is what I must handle at complete the report. Stated as per Captain William Jebb, the Internal Affairs representative who penned the report to whom the images were shown, at least 3 young football coaches' Agawam game the day following the murder that occurred at the same moment. Patrolman Terry J. Deck is tasked with recording all traffic. In the state police apartment as well, captured a picture of Amanda's physique and sent it by email to each of the 6 Chicopee police personnel looking at the case, found that each of the 6 officers removed the emails. No one accused them of misconduct, and their names were absent from the records for whom the remaining incapacity and unwillingness to adhere to work requirements Lame and Deck. The two individuals took the pictures and got the letters from Godair and Levesque, needed to be chastised. 3 unpaid shifts as a form of discipline. The internal inquiry got underway following stepfather Amanda made a police call. He mentioned that his pal had seen pictures, showing the murder site where the call was made the 28th of September 20111. 1 month following the crime, in spite of every attempt, there was no breakthrough in this instance. Up until around 2 years subsequently, the investigators made the decision to take another exam in all the data to determine whether they had failed to notice any significant hints they had not previously seen sprung out of Amanda's bedroom contains a dry erase board. In the written message, Dennis was mentioned, 8,111, indicating the importance of the evidence given that the date was only 15 days away. Amanda was discovered dead in her apartment. The hint was constantly obvious sight, but nobody was observing it. Investigators began to wonder, who is Dennis? The authorities were unaware of that. Name during the duration of detectives conducting investigations verified Amanda's social media accounts and phone history posts, asking whether Amanda was aware of them, anyone interviewing her using the name Dennis. Friends, family, and co-workers, according to Amanda's ex-boyfriend. Someone broke into her flat multiple times. He also informed the while she wasn't home. Authorities that Amanda thought were youthful man from Puerto Rico, whose name began with Amanda, desired to find a solution. Since Amanda was friendly with this man, she favored speaking with him first throughout when they met. Amanda attempted to bring up the burglaries, but the man waved them off. Then Amanda told him about a neighbor, had observed him in her flat. She additionally politely asked him to give her back possessions, but the man became enraged and left. Currently, one of the most important jobs for the investigators' task was to identify Dennis was, and if he was the right one. Who killed Amanda, they found out? That a man was there at the crime scene. Dennis Rosa Roman, a guy lived only 3 blocks away from Amanda's residence, died during a Rosa Roman background check, disclosed a track record of violating and entering, but there was no fingerprint. To contrast with the one they discovered at Amanda's residence was located by the police. Dennis lives in Westfield, Massachusetts. Called for Dennis to visit the station for a light-hearted discussion, but he declined during the discussion. He appeared incredibly tense and restless to their surprisingly. But in November 2013, Rosa Roman, age 22, arrived at the police station where the officers were questioned. Dennis, regarding his connection to Dennis, acknowledged that he knew. But Amanda Chappie's Amanda, he claimed not to have seen her in a few years. He responded with it made natural that Amanda had passed away. For the previous few years and then, investigators questioned him about any prior ever visited Amanda's flat. He remarked that he had never visited the place and that he stated he didn't know her all that well. Says on occasion he sold Amanda marijuana and that these instances were the few times when they came into contact during the Rosa Roman consented to an interview. Supply a sample of DNA taken from the mouth and to determine his shoe size, which the one discovered at the crime site matched. Authorities observed that Rosa Roman was sporting identical styles of Nike Air Max shoes, yet having a distinct tread pattern from the shoes. Recorded in the bloody traces left by Rosa at the crime scene, Roman gave his DNA, but he declined to respond to any more inquiries from the investigators, guaranteeing his comeback in a few days to the police station and that they would conclude their talk. However, the police at that time had no grounds to detain him. Therefore, they had to, of course there were concerns, but let him go, that he might disappear, and then the inquiry could come to a standstill. Once more revealed by Amanda's phone records, she had had 9 conversations with Dennis. July 28, 2011, Amanda had made a call. Dennis had contacted 4 times. Rosa Roman's 5 times that Amanda kept his vow, and a few days later he returned to the police headquarters, though he had since shifted his strategy, claiming that he occasionally spoke with Amanda. She supposedly told him that someone had visited her flat multiple times. She didn't while she wasn't at home. Call the police and report it because anyone. Did it not take anything valuable with it? By now, investigators had heard the narrative behind the break-in multiple times, and we are now almost positive that Rosa Roman was the one who broke the law. When Amanda wasn't there, entering her flat there, it became more and more clear to the man was concealing something from them. Also, they were unable to see any other rationale for his decision to modify his after the first testimony. All that was left was to learn what he was concealing and what he was involved in Amanda's demise, when investigators demonstrated to Rosa Roman the picture of the dry erasing board with the note. Dennis arrived on 8/11/11. He claimed to have written it in memory. Denying his previous assertion that he had never entered Amanda's home apartment, the DNA findings were obtained, and they demonstrated Rosa Roman's actual based on fabricated evidence. His DNA matched that was discovered beneath Amanda's nails, the glass's palm print as well. All of everything belonged to him, and left no uncertainty that he was directly related to the anger following Rosa Roman's realization of the police possessed all the required proof for after his arrest. He altered his account of the third time he was now asserting that day and made an effort to save from whoever had attacked Amanda, suggesting that there was a second party and obviously the crime scene investigators wanted to know the man's name, but Rosa Roman reportedly declined out of concern for his given the security of his family. Even so, he provided particulars on the man who, according to him, killed Amanda. This is his description of the tall white man. 170 to 200 pounds, light-skinned, blue-eyed, putting on soiled boots, baggy trousers, and a tee with the slogan, "Why drink and drive?" when it's acceptable to smoke and fly. In spite of this evidence, investigators didn't think Dennis was the evidence, only indicated one individual. When Amanda was stabbed, they were there. Detained Rosa Roman and accused him of stealing Amanda's life. The trial started over 3 years later. Within 2016, the attorneys for Rosa Roman upheld the narrative that their scent was at the scene of the crime, but he wasn't the one accountable for Amanda's demise. Moreover, they charged the cops with a faulty investigation alleging they were framed Dennis. Following an unsuccessful inquiry, the team claimed the police needed 2 years. To speak with Dennis, even after Rosa Roman already has all the details said that the day Amanda passed away, his dealer made him accompany her. Amanda supposedly owed him a flat, approximately $500 or $600 that the vendor desired. Thus, he brought him to Amanda's, the flat where everything was removed control. The vendor removed a knife from taking his pocket. He began stabbing Amanda. Rosa Roman expressed his desire to assist Amanda, but were unable to stop the dealer. She eventually took hold of his hand. That's the reason his DNA was still under her nails, but the solicitors had their interpretation of what transpired, that they accepted Rosa Roman was invading. When Amanda wasn't at her flat house during one of these unlawful burglaries, he left a note with accurately wrote his name on the board. Amanda figured someone had left a message abandoned by an intruding Rosa Roman. She called him and requested that he send back what he had pilfered from her, which clarifies the 9 conversations on the phone between Amanda and Dennis, too. On Amanda's death day, Rosa Roman returned to her flat due to, he assumed she was at work already, but Amanda was home when the argument broke out. Rosa Roman then took Amanda's life after 8 days of testimonies, and 5 the 12 ER's jury deliberated for hours. Rosa Roman was found guilty of the demise of Amanda Ply at the court in July of 2016. Imposed a life sentence on him without the potential for parole for the internal. The police officer's audit was postponed. After several years, in 2018, Jeffrey Gadir was let go by the police department. Although he was permitted to appeal resuming work in the panel, decided in 2020 that he would be reduced to the rank of patrolman due to his misbehavior and previous disciplinary history. August 4, 2022, in Massachusetts, ratified Amanda's law, which is currently illegal. The Massachusetts law pertaining to first respondents to take unapproved images of crime scenes, which turn it into a misdemeanor with a maximum 1-year sentence in prison and/or fined $2,000. Amanda's the city of Chappie was sued by a family and ultimately consented to resolve the dispute for $100,000.